Hi, good afternoon, everyone. This is Mary Uslander, Chair of the 2016 WNet Mentor Program, and I really want to welcome everyone to today's webinar. We are all in for a huge treat, and I'm really, really excited about bringing today's session. Today we're going to really talk about optimizing your social media presence to optimize your personal brand, and really want to thank all of you for joining. I know this is going to be a great session. This year in our mentoring program, we're really working on how to continue to bring relevant topical content to help you both in your personal and professional careers, and we're really using this year to help formulate how we can grow and expand the program. So I think this is going to be a really great launching pad for future sessions for us. I think this is going to really be a great opportunity, again, for our mentor and mentees to work together in discussing after today's event to really work on their profiles. And this will be a very important collaborative exercise together. So we're really excited about not just today, but the benefits that this will yield going forward, and then the opportunity for many of you to work together on taking this information and using it to your benefit. So now I'd like to turn over the call to Liesl Moffitt. As many of you know, Liesl's our new WNet Executive Director. She has been a fantastic asset to WNet, our organization, and the mentoring program. And Liesl is going to introduce today's speaker and offer a few housekeeping notes. So Liesl, turning it over to you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mary. Thank you very much. And as you mentioned, this presentation was created for you, the members of the WNet. The Women's Network in Electronic Transactions is the premier professional organization dedicated to empowering women in payments. And through a very powerful network of dedicated volunteers, we provide you with national and regional programming, networking, and peer mentoring, which is uniquely designed specifically to help you achieve greater professional success, influence, and parity, regardless of where you are along your career path. And so today's speaker is Peggy Olson. Peggy is a former WNet board member and founder. She's the founder of she's the principal of strategic marketing. Peggy has over 15 years experience in the financial services industry. She founded strategic marketing to help companies build their brands, enhance communications, and improve promotion and lead generation capabilities with the goal of generating and growing revenue. You will be able to ask your questions of Peggy, and Peggy will do her best to answer them at the end of the presentation. Please note that all attendees to today's broadcast are muted, and if you have questions, you need to please post them using the chat tool on your webinar dashboard, which should be on the right-hand side of your screen. So, without further ado, it is with great pleasure that I introduce Peggy Olson.
Thank you, Liesl. You want to turn the slide to the next page, please, and we'll get started. So I first want to take a moment and talk to you before we get into the details of various social media networks and discuss the topic of brand. And I think all of you are probably familiar with the concept of brand from a company standpoint, and oftentimes what we think brand is a logo. And so we need to take a look at how do we apply brand and branding to yourself as a person to grow your reputation and awareness of who you are in the industry and help you along with your career. So from a corporate standpoint, what I tell a lot of our clients in consulting with them about their brand when they say they want to improve their brand is that oftentimes they're only focused on the logo and the corporate identity and what the look and feel of their company is. And what's often neglected and oftentimes more important is the messaging component. So the positioning of the brand and the promise of value. And so in taking a look at a personal brand, I want you to take a look at the two sides additionally. The image side would be your headshot, how you are in person and how you appear, your dress, your haircut, your whole makeup of an essence of who you are from a visual standpoint. But then there's also this messaging component. So it is, what I want you to think about is, from a personal brand, it's a promise to the customers, the people you work with, and anyone you connect with in a business situation of quality, consistency of value that you deliver to them. Next. So you need to think in your mind, it's the essence of what you have to offer and what people can expect from a relationship with you, what you deliver. Next. And it's your reputation. That's what your brand is, as perceived by others. So you need to think about what reputation do you want to have, and you need to live up to that. Next. So a personal brand describes the total experience a relationship with you encompasses. Continue. And this is an important thing to note. You must continually deliver upon your brand to build a lasting impression among people and to build true value. So a personal brand is the promise you make to customers, coworkers, and anyone you connect with. It's what they can expect in terms of quality, consistency, and value of the relationship with you. So next slide, please. So why is this important? Because you need to work to showcase your unique value, the strength of your character, your energy, and your passions. That's what you want to be known for. Next bullet. A personal brand also creates a chemistry and attraction to other people towards you. And it generates immediate interest and open doors so that you can expand your network, you can build relationships, and you can identify new business opportunities and partnerships. And these are all important to you in your day-to-day job. And also, one of the things that's the biggest impact on a personal brand, having a personal brand, is that it's a really big differentiator in a job search. It allows employers, the hiring managers, or the HR people to vet you and for you to stand above the crowd of all the people vying for that position. So what I'm going to say to you in the payments industry when I consult with clients is that, especially if you start getting into ISOs, and ISO is an ISO is an ISO, they all sound the same, they all offer the same products and services, they're selling the same things, and what really differentiates themselves? That's what I tell my clients that we need to get to the heart of. And for you, in a personal brand, you need to get to the heart of what makes you unique, what makes you different, what makes you valuable. And so this is a good thing to be soul searching about, and this is a great thing to be working with your in the mentor-mentee relationship on, is identifying what is it that sets you apart. Next slide. Oops. Sorry, I guess in the job search vetting you land more interviews and you stand out. So let's go on. So I'm going to make a homework assignment for you and your mentor, is to create a personal brand statement that clearly articulates who you are, what you do, what you stand for, the value that you deliver, what makes you special, and how you're different from anybody else. So think about, put yourself in the shoes of a hiring manager. Everybody that submits a resume hopefully is qualified for the job. So how do you pick that one candidate to become the employee? There has to be some spark of interest. You have to feel somehow that they're better than the others. And you want to do that work and make it easy for a hiring manager to know how you're better. Next. So here's a little help in the homework assignment. There's a URL for a 10-step guide to help you craft your personal brand statement so you can use that as a takeaway after we're done with today's webinar and get started. And next. I want to say it's going to be hard work. It's not easy to present the best version of yourself to the world, but that's what you need to do. And it's going to take some time, and it's going to take some tweaking. And a lot of people say to me, I feel like I'm bragging. I feel like people are going to make fun of me that I'm talking too big about myself. But if you're honest and you're truthful in what you're saying makes you different, it doesn't matter. So get out there and toot your own horn. Just know it's not easy. Then once you're done with that, populate that brand statement into your professional resume and into your profiles on social media. So the social media makeovers are a must. Okay, so enough about personal brand. That's the upfront legwork that needs to happen before you go off and try to make an impact in social media. So from a social media standpoint, there's a lot going on. There's a lot of different networks and channels to get the word out about you. And it can be confusing. And I think you're familiar with a bunch of these icons, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Meetup, LinkedIn. The list goes on and on. So how do you really pick from them? And I'm going to say it depends. It really depends on what you're trying to accomplish, what you're trying to do for yourself from a personal standpoint, if it's all about job hunting or if it's about building a business, then or making connections or partnerships or education. So whatever it is that are your goals, you need to pick the right social media networks and outlets to accomplish your goal. Next slide. But really, in the scheme of all of that going on the previous slide, the big four are Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. And so just to talk about them for a little bit, Facebook, in my mind, and I think a lot of people's minds, is more of a personal network for sharing information about you. And so I'm going to call this the audience for friends and family. I do see some people using it and some companies using it successfully for business, but oftentimes they're trying to reach a consumer or a personal audience. And so when you're in the payments industry, I'm not really certain how effective this is, although I see some ISOs use it to reach resellers. I think one of the most important ones for your career is LinkedIn. And LinkedIn is arguably the best social media play for business-to-business interactions. From a from a Twitter standpoint, Twitter is gaining popularity from a business standpoint from the thought leadership perspective. So if your goal is to build your image and your expertise and your competency as an expert on a certain topic, then Twitter perhaps might be a good avenue for you. And then YouTube is great because it provides content through video. So it's great if you're trying to do a lot of educational and also thought leadership pieces. So going forward to the next slide, let's talk more about LinkedIn now, because I think that's what people really want to know about, and how do I improve myself to get the next job, to get the next promotion, to really elevate my profile and so forth. So I'm going to give you 15 tips to help with a profile makeover on LinkedIn. So I want you to take a look at this first example, and here's a guy who's a personal friend of mine. His name is John Scott Dixon, and like me, he owns a marketing agency, and oftentimes we cooperate and work together because he focuses on a different area of marketing than I do. He does a lot of digital marketing. and that is his expertise. But he has a great profile, and I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about it more. I'm going to back up for a minute and talk about LinkedIn at a high level. It's pretty much an online warehouse of resumes, if you think about it. And so it's the #1 outside professional recruiting tool. So you want to have a great LinkedIn profile because it can help you gain exposure to build your personal brand, to build your professional network, and to find new opportunities for jobs and for business deals. Oftentimes LinkedIn is where people meet you for the first time professionally. So I say people can reach out. I can tell you people reach out to me on LinkedIn, and then they're asking me if I'm going to be in a certain city or I'm going to be at a certain event, and they want to meet me personally. So I'm meeting them on LinkedIn first, and then I'm meeting them in person later. So you want to make sure that you put your best foot forward on LinkedIn, because we size up people in somewhere between 30 seconds and 2 minutes. And so people want to scan your profile really quickly and get a first impression of who you are, what you do, and how successful you are. So it needs attention. Most people spend less time improving their LinkedIn profile than they do getting ready for work each morning. So I don't know how long it takes for you to get ready for work, but half hour, an hour, something like that. Over the course of a year, that's what people are spending, less than a half hour of time taking care of their professional profile on LinkedIn. And I think it's much more important than that. So remember the personal branding homework assignment I gave you a few minutes earlier? I'm asking you, once you're done working with your mentor, put the results of that exercise to work for you on LinkedIn. So getting back to John Scott Dixon, he has a great headshot, doesn't he? It shows that he's really friendly and open. You get an impression he's not dressed up in a suit, he's casual, and it looks like he's pretty easy to approach. Do you know that by simply adding a picture, people are 7 times more likely to use your profile, to view your profile on LinkedIn than if you don't have one? And if you don't have one, people start wondering about you. Are you ugly? Are you old? What is it? So that leaves a bunch of strange questions in their mind. So make sure you have a good profile. It shouldn't be a party photo, and it shouldn't be a selfie. A simple, clear, professional headshot works just fine. Okay, tip #2, create an engaging profile background. Your headshot and your background image are the first visuals visitors to your profile see upon arrival. You'll want to choose a picture or an image, or create an image that visually represents part of who you are and what you do. So you can see that John chose to include his company's logo over to the left, add some blue, and then he did on the right side, there's a watermark of his symbol. Of the icon for his logo. The background of my profile, if you go to my profile, and anybody who's on this webinar is welcome to add me as a contact. So go to my profile afterwards, the session today. But what you'll see is my headshot, and you'll see an image that, that I purchased, a stock photo image that I purchased, I think, for a couple dollars of a credit card. And so people associate the credit card industry with me. So having a background background to your LinkedIn profile really can have significant impact. So that's tip #2. Tip #3 is fully utilize the last name field. Okay, so basically what we have here is the top line where it says John Scott Dixon, CEO, Aiden Taylor Marketing. And then underneath it, he has a sentence description. What I'm telling you is the last name field, the Dixon field, allows you to input up to 40 characters. And for most of us, that's significantly more than enough space to accommodate our last names. So what I'm suggesting you do is add your title and your company name onto your last name. So when filling out your profile, you say your last name is Dixon-CEO Aiden Taylor Marketing. Then what that does is free up space in the job description spot. So another example is for me to have Olson, President, Strategic Marketing. That's 38 characters with spaces. So if you use you can use abbreviations if you have to, but type what you would normally put in your professional headline into the last name field. Again, you'd want to do this because you free up your professional headline to contain a value statement. And that leads into tip number 4. Create a memorable professional headline. Okay. This is the value statement. So it has a much larger limit, this field, the professional headline field. It's 120 characters. So this gives you an opportunity to write a phrase or a sentence even that helps you stand out. It needs to articulate why someone visiting your LinkedIn profile might want to get to know you. You can reference the personal branding homework to come up with a professional headline. So in John Scott Dixon's case, he says business hire us to execute powerful strategies across a range of marketing needs at half the cost of an average employee. So he's getting your attention on why you might want to connect with him, why you might want to meet with him, or why you might want to do business with him. In my case, I use the professional headline, the payments industry's go-to marketing expert versus president of strategic marketing. We get a chance lower down in the profile in the job description section to identify what our current job and our past jobs are. So it's better to utilize this professional headline to make a really compelling statement about yourself. If you're more task-oriented, you can try something like helping small SMBs run their businesses better to make more money. I also want to point out that this professional headline is highly searchable. Recruiters and others find people because of their headlines. Plus, this professional headline appears next to your name in any posts that you make, to your connections, in groups, and beyond. So what you say here in this space of 140 characters gets carried through everything you do on LinkedIn. Really important. So tip number 5, customize your URL. So down at the bottom under John Scott's picture is a URL, and LinkedIn will make up its own URL for you, but you can go in and customize this. This is, it makes it easier for you to share your LinkedIn profile with others by customizing this. You can have between 5 and 30 letters or numbers. You can't use spaces again because it's a URL. Spaces, symbols, or special characters. For example, I use mine in my email signature. So when I'm sending an email to someone blind, they not only get my contact information and my company logo in my email signature, but they get my LinkedIn profile, and I'm inviting them to get to know me better and to connect with me. Okay, let's move on to the next set of tips on the next slide. Really important is to have a standout summary. Once you get below someone's headshot and their background, you get a professional summary. And so standing out here is really important. It shouldn't be a listing of a rehash of your job description or a listing of all your responsibilities and skills. It should be 1 or 2 paragraphs that really articulate who you are and what you do. And again, go back to your homework assignment. You should have already done this, and should be easy to pull out of that work and just plop in this space. And I took a look at some of my connections, and Dina Rich, some of you may know her. She works in the industry, and she's also a WNet member, and she heads up the Southern California links. So I took a look at her professional summary and really liked it, so I'm just going to give you a minute there to read through it. And it's pretty short and concise, and you understand what her value is and what she delivers. Again, this summary shouldn't be you shouldn't summarize your job duties here, but you should succinctly state who you are, what you want to do, and how you're different. Next slide. Okay, tip number 7. Detail your job experience with a story. So we can get, this is a little different than what you would do on a written resume. So this I pulled from actually a guy that works in our industry. His name is Greg Cohen, and many of you may know him. He currently is the president of iPayment, and he does a pretty good job of telling a story. So if I'm looking at this as a recruiter, from a recruiting standpoint, I can see that he's had nice job progression, and he's had good educational experience. He's gone from general manager and SVP to chief strategy officer and revenue officer to president of a payments company. And tip number 8, link the brand logos. I can see right away, I recognize the Verifone logo, the Cayenne, and the iPayment logos. And same on the right side, Emory University and George Washington University. So visually, I get a pretty quick representation of Greg's qualifications, and I see his job titles highlighted. And then if I want the story, you read through the one sentence about him. Leads the development and execution of Verifone Commerce Solutions business units. Responsible for setting the company's strategic direction and supporting continued growth. Business leader and growth catalyst for a $28 billion payment processor. So again, really critical and important in the homework assignment in your personal branding to get a lot of this legwork done and succinct. Next slide. Okay. Let's talk about LinkedIn skills. LinkedIn allows you to identify skills that you utilize in your job. When people visit your LinkedIn profile, the skills section testifies to your professional competence. And according to LinkedIn, profiles with skills get 13 times more views than those that don't. So when you select your skills, LinkedIn doesn't allow you to create them from scratch. They have pre-approved categories. But don't worry, the list is huge. What you need to do is think about your target audience, who you're trying to reach, and ask yourself what kind of skills would they expect you to possess. Avoid skills that are too generic and general, like leadership or management, because these types of skills feel like they are just ante into the regular game of everyday business. I want you to get more specific about yourself and more niche-oriented to the payments industry. So pick skills that are relevant to who you are and what you do. You can select up to 50 skills, and that's a lot. But unless you have a lot of endorsements, it's better to stick with 10, as your 10 most endorsed skills are displayed next to the matrix of profile pictures of people who've endorsed you. Sean, do you want to just highlight the top 10 there? Over the top 10 now you see the pictures of people that have endorsed. So actually these are skills from my profile. So my top 10 endorsed skills are payments, credit cards, payment card processing, merchant services, electronic payments, strategic partnerships, mobile payments, mobile commerce, banking, and strategy. And that's interesting because I'm a marketing person. So people are endorsing me, even though I say I'm a marketing person, they're endorsing me for payments. Sorry, actually these are Greg's. Sorry, I made a mistake. These are Greg's skills. And then Greg also identified the skills on the bottom, and he identified 9 more on top of it, so people can take a look there. So anyways, if you want to cut down and you want to optimize the list of what people are recommending you for, just stick with the top 10. Then you want to go out and get endorsements. It's important that you have at least 12 people endorse you for each of your top 10 skills. If you have fewer than 12 people endorsing you, it sort of looks lame. So it's kind of like when you have less than 100 LinkedIn connections, then it says, oh, they have 32 connections. So you want to make sure you get up over 100 connections so it stops giving you that low number next to your profile. So if you've used LinkedIn at all, you've noticed that people want, that LinkedIn wants you to endorse others. So nearly every session that you have, they'll show you the profile images of a few people that you know that you're connected with and ask you to endorse them for 1 or more of their skills. If that function is pulling from just 10 skills versus 50 of them, how much more quickly will you get endorsed and exceed the list of 12 endorsements? So if my math is right, that's 5 times faster. So once you've achieved the first goal of getting 12 endorsements for 10 skills, then move quickly towards securing another 87 endorsements for either of these skills. The skills matrix is ordered top to bottom by the raw number of endorsements that you get for each skill. And just like connections, which cease showing at the count of 500, the endorsements will only show up to 99 at a time. So any endorsements beyond that just change the order of the display, but they don't add anything to your perceived competence. So you want to get it built out, that big block of pictures to the right, and then people will know immediately that you have a lot of people endorsing you for your competence. So let's talk about getting the recommendations. The best way to get them is from your first degree connections. So the way to ask them is to recommend them first. Then they typically will recommend you back. Also, you want to pick 3 key people and ask them for recommendations. You'll want to, oops, I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. So, sorry, back on the endorsement. You're going to, when you log on to LinkedIn, you're going to want to endorse other people, and then you'll get endorsed back. Next slide. Sorry if I'm getting confused here. And then you want, let's move on to get recommendations. Endorsements are different than recommendations. Endorsements are endorsing you for a particular skill. Recommendations is sort of a stamp of approval by an individual person. So again, you want to get recommendations from the people you know, and it's helpful to make recommendations to them first. They'll recommend you back. And then I'm also recommending that you identify with your mentor 3 key people that would be great to have recommendations from. So people like your former bosses or your current boss, executives and from your company, and influencers in your company, and then influencers in the industry that know you and know your work. So it's okay to reach out for them and say, hey, I'm doing this. I'm trying to elevate my profile and my position in the industry. Will you help me? It's even okay to say, I know you're really busy. If you want, I can help draft up something and email it to you, and then you can go ahead and edit it as you see fit, and I'll send you the invitation for the recommendation from LinkedIn, and all you have to do is plop in that text. It's really okay to do that. So here's some examples endorsing me from people in the industry, talking about their experience with me and my performance and what people can expect. I'll give you a minute to read that. And then we can move on to the next slide. Okay, tip number 12 is publish, get any works that you have had published, get them posted. So any articles in magazines, newspapers, periodicals, and so forth. Even works that haven't appeared in a media outlet, but that you can utilize in the public domain, like presentations, reports, white papers, anything that you've been involved in creating content. All of these go additionally to proving your competence. Next slide. Tip number 13. And this kind of seems like a no-brainer, but people often forget, is make your profile public. So on LinkedIn, you can have a private profile and just available to your contacts, or you can make it public. But if you're trying to elevate yourself, if you're trying to get yourself in front of recruiters, if you're trying to get yourself in front of people for business opportunities, your profile needs to be public. When your profile is public, people can search for you using search engines like Google, Yahoo, and Bing. So you're going to want to make sure that your profile is public. And you can see I went out and Googled my own profile, and it comes up with a little bit of description about me. And again, Sean, if you highlight with your highlighter the Google search, and it says strategic marketing understands the unique needs of marketing in the financial services and electronic payments arenas. That's part of my personal branding work, and it shows up in the Google search. And then interestingly enough, images, past headshots or other pictures of me appear in the Google search. So you're going to want to make sure, even if you have pictures on Facebook, they could, or on Instagram, YouTube, and more, they could show up here in the Google search. So you don't want to have your professional headshot and the next shot showing you in a bikini there, so, or with alcohol in your hand or whatever. You need to be careful about what pictures you're going to post. Okay, next slide for tip number 14. Be active. So LinkedIn is like planting and tending a garden. You have to stick with it and interact regularly on LinkedIn to cultivate and reinforce your network and get something back out of it. This means growing new contacts and connections on a regular basis. It also means joining LinkedIn groups that are relevant to your current work and career aspirations, and then participating in conversations, reading and responding to status updates, and reading and commenting on LinkedIn blog posts, and even writing your own blog posts. And here's an example of one of my posts in the Merchant Services group, which has 16,506 members. So by making this post, I have the opportunity to get my thoughts and ideas in front of over 16,000 people. I have my headshot available, and you can see that my professional headline, the payments industry's go-to marketing expert, followed along with it and what I had to say. And this particular post, I was congratulating another WNet member, Donna Embry, who works for Payment Alliance International, on her winning the Distinguished Payments Professional Award from ETA last month. Next slide. And tip number 15, the last one for today's session, is follow the right people and the right companies. So believe it or not, LinkedIn goes way beyond your personal network. It allows you to keep up with people in the payments industry, as well as successful people who inspire you outside of the in and outside of the industry. So by following key leaders and influencers, your news feed from LinkedIn will fill up with advice and information that's relevant to you. Plus, it will help others find you and want to connect with you. And so I just took a screenshot of my news feed, and my news feed is really long, but here's just a quick a synopsis of 3 different companies and individuals that came up. So I got information quickly about Moneris, about Scott Shedd, who I used to work with, and about Hasib Aswan, who I met at a trade show. And so I'm getting information about currency exchange, about data breaches and hacking attempts, and also about what's new at Moneris with their Apple Pay expansion into Canada. So I'm getting a lot of news briefs really fast and quickly that are relevant without me having to sift through a lot of the detail. So with that, I'm just going to, you want to go to the next slide? I'm just going to give you a few last tips of importance. Please know that social media has the ability to really significantly impact your career and your personal reputation. It can do it both positively and negatively. And so I really want you to be aware of that and make sure that you're engaging in an appropriate way. Next. Sean. It's really important to avoid self-inflicted damage. Be truthful, be respectful, and be tactful in everything you say and do on social media. Think before you post. Check and recheck posts for errors. Next. Most importantly, don't be afraid to toot your own horn. Your male counterparts do it all the time. And I think if you're really honest with yourself, you'll think about guys that you work with, and they're all saying, I can do this, I can do that, I can do this, I can do that, even when they haven't done it before. And that's what helps them get promotions, and that's what helps them get new jobs. Don't be afraid. Women don't toot their own horn near enough, so go out there and do it. Thanks for your time today, and now I think we're going to open it up for questions.
Hi, Peggy. This is Mary. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, great. Well, Peggy, thank you so much. I can't tell you how many kernels of insight I've gotten here, and I'm really, really looking forward to spending time with Alicia to go through this. My question is, back to your recommendations. What was striking to me, the recommendations were so consistent with how you really defined yourself in terms of the go-to marketing, and it was very cohesive. So my question was, in asking for recommendations, did you steer individuals to kind of what you wanted them to say, or was it just more consistent with, you know, your practice and how you run, you know, your professional, you know, business?
Well, some of it, of the 3 that I showed you, only one of them I helped to craft, and that was the CIO guy.
Okay. All right.
I really took a look at, and I think this is important. It's been an important tool in my business and also in my personal brand. Is when I'm looking for new clients, I think about who do I want to work with. I don't think about where's the next dollar.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to work with people that I like, that I respect, that I'll have fun working with, and that's all about me. And I don't know. Sometimes I say when I turned 50, I turned feisty, but it took some maturity on my part to kind of get to that standpoint, to get to that point in my career. And it's like, you know, there's a lot going on, and there's some people I just choose not to work with. I don't want to work with them. I've had, you know, everybody's had that person that's just the thorn in their side in their career, and I don't want to do that so anymore. I'm too old for that. So in looking at who do I want for my next customer, who do I want to represent my personal brand, there are people that I like, there are people that I respect, there are people that are well respected. And in most of the cases, they know me well, they know my personal brand, and if they're a marketing person, they're fairly articulate in being able to represent that. So Terry and Patty, they wrote their own recommendations. When you ask for a recommendation, they write them and you can review them before you make them live. So if there is something wrong, if there's a typo or you would like them to say something else, you can reach back to them through email and say, can you edit this a little bit more, you know, or tweak it. You're free to do that, to say, let's try it again and you know, get it a little bit more perfect, if you will. In the case of Roger, Roger said, I'd love to give you a recommendation, but I'm a really terrible writer. And so just in talking, you know, he called me to tell me that because I had emailed him, you know, asking him for the recommendation. He called me back on the phone and I said, that's all right, Roger, let's talk about it. What would you want to say to me about me? And so we talked for 5 minutes, and then I encapsulated that and you know, emailed it back to him. And he said, I like it, I made one change, here's my change. And I said, okay, that's great. Now why don't you put that in the LinkedIn spot and send it back to me through LinkedIn so I can make it live. So that's how it works.
That's great.
Next question.
Mary, this is Liesl. I have a question. Can you hear me?
It's Peggy. I can hear you, Lisa.
Okay. You were talking about the endorsements and the importance of having 10 really powerful endorsements. What if you already have endorsements that are those general ones that you said are better to avoid, like leadership and strategy? How would you manage sort of transitioning your endorsements from, you know, what you already might have to what you really, really want?
Well, when you go into your profile, you can edit and update your profile. So you can delete those. Just know that all the people that endorsed you for those skills, their pictures are going to go away. It's not difficult to do, and it's not, the people that endorsed you, they're not going to get an email saying Liesl deleted you. So it's not really a big deal. So you just want to go into your profile and take a look at what the profile options, before you start deleting and adding, take a look at, there's hundreds, if not thousands, of what the skills are. So you need to take a look at those and then decide which are the top 10 key ones that you want to have, and then go delete the ones you want to replace and put them in. Make sense?
Yes, it does. Thank you very much.
Okay. Anybody else?
Peggy, it's Mary. I have another question, if you don't mind, if nobody else does. So wonderful. So what if someone asks you for a recommendation and it's somebody that you don't really know very well? I mean, you'd be happy to do it, but you really also want the recommendation to be, it links to your profile, right? So you want to endorse people that you really know, that you are comfortable. So how do you handle that?
Yeah, you know, I've had that particular situation happen. And so sometimes people request endorsements from me because they think I know a lot of people in the industry, and it would just thing. And I just make a personal rule that unless I know someone really well, I don't do the endorsement. And I think there's two ways to approach this. When you get an endorsement or a referral recommendation request through LinkedIn, you have an opportunity to respond to it positively or negatively. And you would go ahead and respond to it negatively. Well, there's one approach. You can ignore it.
Right.
And it will just go away. But understand that that reflects on you and your personal brand.
Yep.
So in my assessment, it's better to respond to it and explain to the person why, that you reserve recommendations for only people that you know intimately. But take a positive spin, and if you know them at all, perhaps recommend a couple people that might be a better fit for their recommendation, to make the recommendation. And if you don't know, who that is, just recommend that they seek out a current or past boss or executive within one of their companies. And getting back to the recommendations, one of the things I forgot to say, some of the most compelling recommendations, if you're in any kind of sales, marketing, business development, partner management, relationship management, are those of your customers.
Yep.
So that would be great to reach out to. You know, what is a better testament than someone who works, a recommendation from someone who works with you on a daily basis that isn't your boss, that's your customer.
Right. Yep. Excellent. Very, very helpful.
Well, I think we've got about four or five more minutes. So if there's maybe one last question, otherwise we'll wrap it up for the afternoon.
Well, I have another question for you. Given that we are a volunteer organization, what are your thoughts on getting recommendations from people that you work with through WNet? How would you show them up on your Facebook profile so that they would be effective?
On Facebook or on LinkedIn?
I'm sorry, on LinkedIn. I'm sorry.
That's okay. For you personally, Lisa?
No, I was actually thinking that, you know, so many of our members do such valuable work with each other as volunteers that we could recommend each other for our volunteer service. You know, the way that we stepped up, took a leadership role, you know, helped to create programs, support other women. You know, I just wanted to see what your thoughts were on finding a place in your LinkedIn profile to do that, either to get recommendations for yourself or to do it for others.
Right. I think that's an important thing to do, and you can identify in the recommendation that someone is making for you or that you're making for someone else, that your experience with them has been in a volunteer capacity, and what the skills were that the person demonstrated in that volunteer capacity and how that relates to their real world job. And in fact, if you go after the session and connect with me on LinkedIn, or if you're already a connection with me, view my LinkedIn profile, you'll see that I do have one recommendation from a WNet member, Gigi Fontenot, and Gigi and I worked together as volunteers for the Electronic Transactions Association and as volunteers for WNet. And that's how we know each other's work capabilities and how she's able to make a recommendation about me. She doesn't know me through a paid engagement with my company or from my previous employment at TSYS or at Vital Processing. Did that answer your question, Lisa?
Yes, it does. I thank you very much. I just wanted to sort of open up the possibility of, you know, using your WNET connections as recommendations, and that was very helpful. I thank you very much.
Okay, great. All right, well, with that, I want to say thank you to everyone. Sean, do you have any last words?
Thank you, everyone, for participating.
Yes. This was great, Peggy. I thank you so very much for all the time that you put in to prepare and present this valuable information to us today. And I want to thank everybody that's on the call for attending the webinar and offer you to please provide us with feedback on how this was helpful to you. We all look forward to seeing each other's LinkedIn profiles looking better and better every day as we go forward. And I know I joined Peggy and other members of the WNET community to say I look forward to meeting each of you at the WNET Career and Leadership Summit on September 2021 in Atlanta this year. I hope you'll mark your calendars now to sign up to go. It's a great place to meet with your mentor or mentee and meet over 100 other women who are leaders of our industry. The committee is planning an amazing program. We're just getting started, and if any of you are interested in joining the program, the education committee that's going to be developing the program for career and leadership, you're welcome to contact me and I'll put you in touch with the committee chair. For more information on the Career and Leadership Summit, you can go to our website, www.wnetonline.org. And lastly, I just want to thank you for being a member of WNET. We are here to empower each other, women as women in payments every day, and I thank you very much for spending your time with us today on this webinar. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you, Peggy. This is wonderful. Appreciate it.
Yes, thank you, Peggy.
Bye.